So today we're going to dig into a timeless fable you've probably heard a million times, The Honest Woodcutter. But we're not just going to retell it. Oh no, we're going to pull back the curtain and see what makes this simple story tick.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a question that's really at the heart of this whole thing. Imagine this. What if your biggest screw-up, a simple mistake that could ruin your entire day, somehow turned into the best thing that ever happened to you? It's a wild idea, right? Let's see how our story plays with it.
All right, first things first, the woodcutter's plight. Every great story has to start somewhere. We've got to meet our main character and get a feel for his world before all the action kicks off. This is what we call setting the scene. So who's our hero? The story gives it to us straight and simple. He's poor, so right away we get his struggle, and he's honest. Now you're going to want to remember that second part, because trust me, it's going to be a very big deal later on. His day starts out, well, completely normal. It's all about routine. This is our before picture. Life as it always is, right up until the exact moment it isn't.
You gotta love this bit. The story gives us this simple rhythm. Swish, swoosh. That's not just the sound of him working, it's the soundtrack to his life, the steady beat of his daily grind.
And then, plop. Just one little word and that whole rhythm shatters. This, my friends, is what storytellers call the inciting incident. It's that single moment that kicks off the whole conflict and flips our hero's world upside down.
And you can feel his panic immediately, can't you? The stakes are crystal clear. For a poor woodcutter, this axe isn't just a piece of metal, it's his livelihood. It's how he puts food on the table. Losing it isn't an inconvenience, it's an absolute catastrophe.
So, things have gone from bad to worse. Now we get to the test. In story terms, this is the rising action. This is where things get complicated and the tension really starts to crank up.
Just when he thinks it's all over, something magical happens. An angel appears right out of the river. Now, we're not talking about some helpful stranger here. This is a full-on supernatural event, and it completely changes the game. So the angel puts him through this little three-part test, and notice how the temptation just keeps escalating. First, gold, the ultimate jackpot. Then silver, still a life-changing prize. Each offer is a bigger and bigger test of that one thing we learned about him at the start, his honesty. And all of this leads right here, to the climax, the big moment. This is the peak of all that tension, where our hero has to make a choice that's going to define who he is and decide his entire future.
Just look at what he's up against. On one side, you have incredible wealth that could solve every problem he's ever had. And on the other side, there's just the truth. He turns down the gold. He turns down the silver.
He chooses his integrity over a fortune. And when he finally sees his plain old iron axe, he's overjoyed. That's how he solves his problem. Not by getting rich, but by holding on to who he is.
Okay, so he made the honest choice. But what happens next? The story isn't over. This is the falling action, where we get to see the fallout from that huge decision.
And he gets immediate validation. The angel, who's pretty much the moral judge of this story, is pleased. This isn't just the woodcutter feeling good about himself. It's like the universe itself is giving him a nod of approval.
And here's the kicker. He doesn't just get his old axe back. The angel gives him the gold and the silver ones too. His honesty didn't just fix his problem, it made him incredibly wealthy.
So let's bring it all home and look at the final lesson. This is the resolution, the part that tells us why this story has stuck around for so long.
And the story doesn't beat around the bush, does it? The message is delivered loud and clear. Honesty always gets rewarded. It's presented as a simple, universal truth. The entire story was built from the ground up to prove this one point. When you get right down to it, this story is so effective because it follows a classic narrative recipe that just works. We have a relatable hero, a super clear moral choice, a test of that character, and a resolution where the reward is a direct result of his virtue. It's simple, it's powerful, and man, it's easy to remember. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. The story shows us a world where honesty pays off. Literally and immediately. But in our world, a world that's full of shortcuts and moral gray areas, what is honesty really worth to you?